Did a professor at Yale crack the code on how we can live forever? It sounds crazy, sounds wild, but there's actual science to back this up. People with robust social connections are more likely to live longer, healthier, and happier lives. But according to Census Bureau surveys, people were spending less time with friends and more time alone, even before the pandemic. I know, crazy, which only intensified the sense of social isolation and loneliness. A cognitive scientist named John Yang from Yale said this, and I believe him, and not just because he teaches at Yale. So what do we do with this information? You may have heard how difficult it is for adults to make new friends. So if adults are stuck in the same social circles, then how do you make those more robust social connections? The solution is to learn a skill that gives you the tools to connect with damn near everyone, and not just connect, but to create meaningful relationships where listening, backhaving, and play are active. Improv teaches you how to make new friends, connect with them often, laugh as often as you can, and live forever. I know I made up the live forever part, but the rest is undeniable. I didn't go to Yale, but I've been working with comedians, business execs, college students, adults, salespeople, and everyone in between since 2006 on how learning improv can help you become more charismatic communicators. There's no denying it. Americans are lonely, and it's affecting our health. No offense, but your smartphone is not your friend. Netflix is not your friend. You're lonely, and you don't know what to do about it, because adults aren't exactly equipped to make new friends. It's why so many of you dread networking events and you fear first dates. Look, when you were a kid, you prioritized play. You connect, you take chances. Somewhere along the way of becoming an adult, you started problem solving. And the older you got, the less problems you were willing to solve, so the more chances you stopped taking. And speaking of problems, this is a big one. Adults avoid new experiences. And as a result, we go into this loop of loneliness. When we're feeling lonely, we start pulling away. We don't want to network. We don't want to ask for that promotion, so we're stuck in the same position at our job. We don't get new clients, we don't get new relationships, new connections, and as a result of all of that, we don't gain any confidence. So now what happens? You start to feel lonely. You have this constant loneliness loop, which sounds like the most boring carnival ride of all time. You, by yourself, going in this depressing circle over and over, and what's worse, you can see other people having fun on their rides. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy. You're not having any fun in your business, in your life, because you have convinced yourself that you are not the kind of person who is capable of having any fun in your business. It's an easy trap to get into, and unfortunately, a really difficult one to get out of. Knowing there's a loneliness epidemic, I wanted to see if there were any solutions already out there. And that's when I stumbled across the greatest networker in the world, Joe Polish. He's an entrepreneur and founder of the Genius Network, a mastermind of some of the biggest, most important thought leaders in the world. He brought them all together and, oh, by the way, had them pay $25K to do it. So there's gotta be something that we can learn from them, right? Because they're paying. Joe is also the author of a book that I love so much I went through an entire pack of index cards jotting down notes and inspirations. The book is called What's in It for Them, and it opens with this. The secret to success in life and business is learning how to connect and form relationships with other people, and most people don't know how to do that. That was the moment I knew this book would change my life. Because if the secret to success in life and business is learning how to connect and form relationships with other people, then improv is the secret to success in life and in business. I always knew it, but putting it into those words it's really nice. That's because improv combines social interactions with simple communication techniques. Learn improv and you'll be less lonely, more likely to network, which leads to more business. You'll be more likely to talk to strangers, which might lead to more fulfilling relationships. When you learn improv, you also learn comedy techniques. You learn how to be funny on your terms. Now you have confidence and charisma, not just funny shirts and movie quotes. You have your perspective. Joe frequently mentions throughout the book that active listening, being curious, and building rapport with others is what leads to the most meaningful connections in life and business. Making them laugh is the icing on the cake, and improv is the recipe. Now, before I explain why people who learn and practice improv are more likely to live in the moment and therefore be less stressed, let's go into some legit science. because a lot of people think improv comedy is just about making some bullshit up on the spot, and there's some truth to that. But this video, and the reason why improv changed the way I communicate, is backed by actual research. Let's dive in. People with robust social connections are more likely to live longer, healthier, and happier lives. But according to Census Bureau surveys, people were spending less time with friends and more time alone even before the pandemic, which only intensified their sense of social isolation and loneliness. So when you learn improv, you learn how to do a lot of the things that Joe is talking about in this book. Let's take a simple exercise like yes and. In yes and, you practice accepting what the other person says, judgment-free, and then you accept and embrace their idea. That's the yes. That's acknowledging the other person. I heard what you said, you are heard. The and is what you add on top of it. That's your idea, your response. And when people bounce off each other like this, you keep conversations flowing, you stay present. Most importantly, you connect. In his book, Joe says that rapport is what we're ultimately aiming for in our interactions with other people. Once you have rapport, it means you get along. He goes on to say that the problem most of us have is knowing how to get to that point. And that's what I love about improv. It's rapport training. It exercises your curiosity muscles because you're listening and creating at the same time as a unit. When you communicate like this with someone, even a total stranger, you build trust. And a lot of people are capable of being kind and trustworthy. But when you add charisma, playfulness, and charm, now that's the comedy part of improv comedy, you get rapport. Imagine bringing this yes and energy to a networking event. This will lead to less loneliness, more clients, better connections, and the very best relationships you'll ever have in your whole life. I promise. I know I don't know you personally, but I promise. The way I talk to people completely changed when I started learning improv. I stopped wasting time judging what the other person was saying and started staying in the moment with them. How many of you are thinking about what you're gonna say while the other person is speaking? Be honest. How many of you decide what you're gonna say and then still say it no matter what the other person says, no matter how the conversation evolves? That's not how good communication is supposed to work. Improv teaches you to treat these conversations like tennis. One person talks, the other person stays in the moment with them, actively listening. Then when it's time to respond, you go to where the ball was hit, meaning you meet the other person where they are. Then you respond. In tennis, you don't get to decide where the ball is going to go before it's hit over the net, just like you don't get to decide exactly where the conversation is going during the conversation. You have to stay present. You hear me? You have to stay present. Improv taught me how to stay in the moment. That leads to letting go of control, which in turn decreases stress. It made me more open to new experiences, which in turn increased my social circle. I learned how to communicate with just about anyone, which gave me more opportunities. So in the end, this unscripted art form actually gave me the greatest script of them all. It taught me how to stay present and let go. And the most beautiful part of improv is how accessible it is. You can take an improv class at your local theater, or you could jump into one of my programs right now. Because learning the language of improv comedy will make you fluent in listening, reacting, and inspiring. That's the tool that Joe Polish is talking about and what's in it for them. Learn and practice improv on a regular basis and you'll stop shying away from opportunities. You'll go to the networking event with your head held high, ready to connect. Because improv comedy is the cure to the loneliness epidemic.